0-win NFL teams. In the history of the NFL, there has been 5 of them, all of which live in infamy for those disastrous seasons.
No, I'm not going 1-15. No. Well, I'll be swimming in the lake over there somewhere.
Mike, you played with winners and you played with losers. The Colts are losers. What's it like?
In today's video, we will take a look at these 5 teams and how long it took them to recover from going winless, starting with the Dallas Cowboys.
When we went to the owners, they said, well, we'll give you 3 players off each team, so that's where we started. We got all the bad players, and you can imagine there wasn't many teams that could be, lower than we were.
Back in 1960, the Dallas Cowboys were introduced into the NFL as an expansion team, making them the 13th NFL franchise. Expectations were low entering their first season, but the Cowboys jumped out to a 14-0 lead on opening day. Unfortunately, they lost by 2 points. And despite some other close games that season, they finished 0-11-1.
We had players not show up for practice, we had some not show up for games, and it was a different kind of a group.
They finished dead last in points scored and points allowed, losing by an average margin of 16. As expected, having a roster full of every other team's worst players didn't go well. They clearly had the worst talent in the NFL, and they needed upgrades at just about every position. So how long did it take the Cowboys to become a serviceable team? Well, they actually showed some promise right away. In 1961, they started 3-1, but they lost steam and they finished 4-9-1. At that point, the organization really began focusing on building an offense, hoping that would help turn their fortunes around. And in 1962, those efforts were paying off. The Cowboys put up over 30 in 7 of their 14 games, and over 40 in 3 of those contests. But despite a huge offensive improvement, their record barely improved to 5-8-1 due to having the worst defense in the NFL. And in 1963, they showed no improvement, going 4-10. By the end of 1964, the Cowboys had been a franchise for 5 years and had failed to win more than 5 games in any of those individual seasons. Finally, in 1965, the Cowboys got over the hump and finished with a winning record, going 7-7 and playing in the Playoff Bowl, the 3rd place game in the NFL at the time. Even though they got blown out that day, they had finally established a season to be proud of. They were able to play complementary football for the first time as a franchise. They had a strong defense and a serviceable offense that made big plays primarily because of their star rookie receiver Bob Hayes. Hayes had won the Olympic 100-meter at the 64 Games in Tokyo, which tied a then world record. That speed proved to be unguardable as Hayes led the league in receiving touchdowns as a rookie, as well as in his 2nd season. He was so fast that he's heavily credited as being the reason that zone defensive schemes were developed in the pros. It took 5 years for Dallas to recover from going 0-11-1. After that, the Cowboys went on to make the playoffs 17 times in the next 18 seasons, establishing themselves as a premier powerhouse franchise in the 70s and early 80s. The nostalgia of the late 20th century Cowboys is keeping hope alive in the fan base to this day. At the end of the day, we all get nostalgic about things, whether it be about our sports teams that were once great or just by simply looking at old photos. And if you're looking for the perfect gift this holiday season, I got you covered. Let me quickly tell you about Aura, today's video sponsor. Aura digital frames are beautifully designed Wi-Fi frames that connect people around the world through a brilliant photo sharing experience. Get access to unlimited free photos and video just by downloading the Aura app and connecting to Wi-Fi. You can preload photos before it ships, and you can keep adding from anywhere, anytime. You also have the ability to personalize your gift, adding a message before it arrives. This really is a great gift for family, friends, or your significant other. And for a limited time, visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code KTO at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code KTO. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of this year, so order now before it ends. You can support this channel by mentioning me at checkout.
Come on, Console. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Whoa. Let's go. Bring it in. Pants.
Like the Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were an expansion franchise. And also like the Cowboys, things did not go well in their first season. They scored an abysmal 8.9 points per game while allowing nearly 30 a game on their way to going 0-14. Losing by over 20 points a game would make any coach lose his mind.
Well, these guys are almost gutless, and the ones that aren't that are brainless.
Any strategy with throwing short passes yesterday instead of long passes?
The strategy, I think, was that if he waited any longer, he might have got killed.
We had to scramble out of there quite a bit, a lot of sacks.
Well, we didn't block them, but we made up for it by not tackling.
The following year was more of the same, as they went on to lose their first 12 games. Finally, after 26 straight losses, the Bucs achieved their first 2 victories as a franchise, finishing 1977 2-14. What's wild was their defense had been above average, but their offense was a total travesty. They were so abysmal that I actually made an entire video about how truly awful they were. If you haven't seen that video, I'll give you one stat from it. The Bucs quarterbacks that year threw 3 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. The following year was another step in the right direction, albeit they still weren't very good, going on to win just 5 games. Their defense was coming into their own though, and their offense wasn't the worst in the league at this time, so at least there was some improvement. Finally, in 1979, 3 seasons removed from failing to win a single game, Tampa Bay won 10 games, achieving their first ever playoff appearance. On the back of the #1 scoring defense in football, the Bucs made it all the way to the NFC Championship before losing to the LA Rams. Despite this loss, this had been a tremendously successful season for the franchise, considering where they started.
In 1982, the Colt organization began the most massive rebuilding program in league history. With a fresh front office approach and a new coaching philosophy, stressing fundamentals and conditioning, the Colts suited up 31 new players, an astounding 64% turnover in personnel.
Now, this next team does not have the excuse of being an expansion franchise, but rather just pure ineptitude. The 1982 Baltimore Colts were coming off an abysmal 2-14 season that saw them get outscored by 17 points a game. It ended with head coach Mike McCormick getting fired, and the team replaced him with Frank Kush. 1982 ended up being just a bizarre NFL season.
For 57 days, the Colts complex lay dormant. During the layoff, the young Colts lost their conditioning edge when they were unable to maintain the constant repetition of fundamentals.
The strike shortened the year to just 9 games, and once the team returned to play, the Colts were clearly not ready as they finished the year going 0-8-1. Their expected starting quarterback was rookie first-rounder Art Schlichter, who was horrible in his 3 games as a rookie, and during the strike, he gambled away not only his entire signing bonus, but he had accrued at least $700,000 in gambling debts. His life went completely off the rails after that, and I made an entire video about it if you want to check it out.
I'm Merle Herman with Mike Hafner. Mike, you played with winners and you played with losers. The Colts are losers. What's it like?
The 1982 season landed the Colts the #1 overall pick in 1983, which came at the perfect time, because perhaps the greatest quarterback prospect ever was coming out of college, John Elway. However, in an unprecedented move, Elway took a stand, saying that he wouldn't play for the Colts.
It was nothing against the city of Baltimore or anything like that. It was just a matter of what I had to do what I thought was best for John Elway, and that the situation of Baltimore was not better than the situation I had with baseball.
After Elway had threatened the Colts that he would go play for the Yankees if they didn't trade him, they traded him to the Broncos. As time went on, this ended up being a huge bummer for the Colts. Now, despite that, they saw dramatic improvement in 1983, going on to win 7 games. They had steadied the ship a bit, at least for a brief moment, before owner Robert Irsay pulled the rug out from underneath the franchise. He moved the team overnight from Baltimore to Indianapolis. After getting established in their new home, the Colts fell back into mediocrity, winning just 4 games in 1984, 5 games in 85, and 3 games in 86. They were on pace to go winless in 1986, beginning the season 0-13. However, Irsay fired their head coach, and he hired former Patriots head coach Ron Meyer to come try and help prevent them from losing out. It somehow worked. The team won their final 3 games, all with Meyer leading the way. And he clearly was an upgrade because things took off the following season. With some momentum going into 1987, the Colts finally got over the hump, going 9-6. This was led by their top-notch defense and the addition of running back Eric Dickerson on the offensive side. It had taken them 5 years and a relocation before overcoming that disastrous 0-win season. But it was too bad that it was short-lived. They lost in the wildcard round that year, then proceeded to miss the playoffs the following 7 seasons, which included only winning 1 game in 1991.
Snap to Orlovsky. He's back to pass. He ran out of the end zone, safety. Dan Orlovsky forced out of the end zone by an on-charging Jared Allen. 2-0 Vikings.
In 2008, the Detroit Lions had hit rock bottom. They hadn't been to the playoffs in 8 seasons, and despite winning 7 games the previous year, this 08 squad fell flat on their face, going 0-16. From historically terrible defensive play to Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone, this team was a football abomination. Things had gone so downhill that the owner fired the GM just 3 weeks into the season. And what's pretty crazy about that year was that Calvin Johnson still put up over 1,300 yards and led the league in receiving touchdowns.
The record speaks for itself. We know what that is, and my feelings about it are be kept to myself. But the record speaks for itself.
The franchise reset in 2009 with a fresh GM and coach. And the first big decision they made was drafting quarterback Matt Stafford #1 overall. However, nobody expected much from this team, and 2009 looked much of the same as 2008, although they did manage to at least squeak out 2 wins that season. Stafford had struggled as a rookie, but he was an improvement over the awful quarterback play this team had experienced the previous season. The defense was still the worst in the NFL. For the 2010 season, it got off to a rough start, but did see a step in the right direction to end the season as they finished with a 4-game win streak. Despite Stafford missing most of the season, the offense did okay given the circumstances, and the defense improved greatly after getting a huge boost from Defensive Rookie of the Year in Ndamukong Suh. Finally, the Stafford Schwartz era all came together in 2011. They produced a top 5 offense with Stafford leading the league in pass attempts, and he put up over 5,000 yards with 41 touchdowns. Calvin Johnson also had a great season. He led the league in receiving yards, and this team won 10 games, clinching a wildcard berth. It had taken them 3 years to recover from 0-16, and it had been 12 years since their last playoff appearance. Sadly, despite having Stafford, Megatron, and Suh operating at Pro Bowl levels year in and out, this team fell apart in 2012 and fired head coach Jim Schwartz after 2013. They did manage to bounce back under Jim Caldwell, but failed to win a single playoff game during his time there. It wasn't until Dan Campbell took over that the Lions became a real threat.
Do you understand that it is actually statistically harder for a team to be this consistently bad than it is for them to occasionally accidentally be good?
Following a disastrous 2016 campaign, the Cleveland Browns were looking to avenge themselves after finishing with just 1 win. Head coach Hugh Jackson vowed that this team would not go 1-15 again.
You're not talking about it? No, I'm not. I'm not going 1-15. No. Well, I'll be swimming in the lake over there somewhere. So that's not happening.
Turns out, he was right. They did not win 1 game. They won 0. This sparked the fan base to hold a parade out of spite, and Jackson did end up jumping into Lake Erie. What had gone so wrong was that the front office had completely gutted this roster of its veteran talent in pursuit of acquiring future draft picks, aka they were tanking. It may have been the most egregious form of tanking that we have seen. The team trotted out a completely overwhelmed rookie DeShone Kizer week after week, and he went on to lead the league in interceptions while also accounting for 9 fumbles. The following offseason, owner Jimmy Haslam hired GM John Dorsey, and Dorsey was not afraid to start making moves. He was like a kid in a candy store. He had 2 top 4 picks amongst a boatload of other draft capital, and he had the highest available cash to acquire players. This is like a Madden franchise player's dream. The team made moves like the trade for Jarvis Landry, they drafted Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward, and entering 2018, the hype for this team was immense. At first, things were ugly, but they pulled things together after firing Hugh Jackson, and they finished that season 7-8-1. It was a massive improvement over the previous season, and the future looked bright, especially with how Baker Mayfield looked as a rookie. Unfortunately, John Dorsey made a few too many risky moves that ultimately would cost him his job. He made a blockbuster trade to acquire OBJ, which never really panned out. And more notably, he hired Freddie Kitchens to be the head coach. He was a guy who had never been a coordinator, and this resulted in a disastrous 2019 season, and Dorsey was kicked to the curb. Owner Jimmy Haslam steadied the ship with hiring Andrew Berry as his replacement, and then he brought in Kevin Stefanski to be the head coach. Immediately, these moves paid off, as in 2020, the Browns went 11-5, finishing with their first playoff appearance since 2002. It took them 4 years to recover from 0-16. And unfortunately, we all know how things went after 2020. Outside of one insane run to the playoffs in 2023, it's been a disaster. But hey, as a Browns fan, to see them go into Pittsburgh for that wildcard game and beat them the way they did was truly amazing.
Screen pass right side. Here comes Chubb. 35, 30, 25, 20. He's going. He's going.